As the wedding ceremony reached the point of exchanging rings, David suddenly announced he needed a 5-minute pause. Then he turned to Jenny Green, the woman he couldn't forget, and knelt on one knee. "Jenny, I once promised you that I'd propose to you in front of everyone. So, if there's a next life, will you marry me?" Jenny Green covered her mouth and nodded, then tearfully threw herself into David's arms. Turning to me, she said, "Sarah, even though I didn't get to marry David in this life, I hope you'll take good care of him for me." All around me, guests were pointing and whispering. Across from me stood the groom, kissing someone else passionately. Everyone was waiting to see the bride's breakdown. But I just smiled, walked towards Jenny Green, and thrust my wedding bouquet into her hands. "Why wouldn't you have a chance? If this jerk means so much to you, I'll make it happen right now." For 10 years, I had been being submissive and desperately trying to please David Miller's family, yearning for their acceptance. Yet, in the end, it was only because of the child I was carrying that I got this belated wedding. I thought that once we were married and had the child, David Miller would finally settle down. But now, I was watching the man who was supposed to be exchanging vows with me, kissing someone else passionately. Even as I dug my fingernails half an inch deep into my flesh, the pain in my heart was still suffocating. Suddenly, I couldn't take it anymore. Because of my words, Jenny Green clutched her chest and collapsed into David Miller's arms. Without a moment's hesitation, he scooped up Jenny Green and rushed towards the hospital. He even cursed me as malicious and petty on his way out, saying it was something that could have been resolved in just 5 minutes, and I had to make such a scene and embarrass everyone. David's parents and Sarah's parents couldn't stop David Miller, so I bore the brunt of the remaining anger. The MC/officiant stood there awkwardly, holding his script, looking at me. Mom was ashamed of me, crying and hitting me, telling me to go bring David Miller back. Dad scoffed, told me I was on my own, and forcibly pulled her away. David's mother already looked down on me, and now she coldly accused me of being a classless country bumpkin who didn't know her place. She lectured me, saying that to marry into a family like theirs, I had to learn to swallow my pride and suffering, not embarrassing her husband publicly. For 10 years, I felt for the first time that sincerity isn't always reciprocated. I didn't want to be a Miller wife anymore. They left with the remaining guests, telling me to walk back by myself and reflect. Standing at the entrance, holding the hem of my pure white wedding dress, I watched them disappear. Behind me was the silent, empty venue. Before me, a torrential downpour suddenly began. After the Miller family parents and the others left, Sarah's parents drove up and stopped in front of me. Mom rolled down the car window. Seeing them, all the hurt inside me burst out at once. My eyelashes trembled, a string of tears rolled down, and I called out, "Mom," my voice choked. Just as I reached for the car door handle, I heard the sound of the car door locking from inside. I stared at them, stunned. Mom admonished me, disappointed, "I told you not to listen to me back then. Now, just listen to David's parents, reflect properly, and find a way to coax David back. After all, you're carrying their family's child. No matter what Jenny Green does, she can't trump that." "Mom, how can you say?" Mom ignored me. After rolling up the window, the car sped away. I bit my lip hard, watching the tail lights disappear into the distance, tears streaming down my face uncontrollably. The venue for the wedding was a mountain resort. I couldn't even get phone signal to call a taxi/rideshare. A kind server handed me an umbrella, their eyes full of sympathy. I thanked them, then struggled down the mountain, holding the heavy wedding dress with one hand and the umbrella with the other. Soaked by the slanted rain, I was chilled to the bone. My heels were raw and bleeding from the friction. When my phone finally got signal, over a dozen text messages instantly popped up. They were all from David Miller. Every single one was questioning me, demanding why I was constantly targeting Jenny Green when he had already explained that he only saw her as a sister. I ignored him. The next second, an unknown number sent me a video. In the video, David Miller was holding Jenny Green's hand as he accompanied her for tests, occasionally kissing her fingertips, his eyes red-rimmed as he pleaded with her not to be in danger. I thought back to when I had just found out I was pregnant and fainted in the bathroom due to low blood sugar. That time, I broke my leg and my stomach hurt terribly. I was terrified and instinctively called him for support. But he just coldly reprimanded me, saying he wasn't a doctor and what good would calling him do. I stayed in the hospital for half a month that time, but he never showed up once. Later, I found out that on the day I fell, Jenny Green had cut her hand while cooking. Because the doctor told her it might leave a scar, she cried terribly. So David Miller vented all his anger and concern onto me. I stopped walking and let out a self-mocking laugh. I realized the truth far too late, only to find myself in such a humiliating situation. As I was trying to get a taxi/rideshare, David Miller called. After yelling at me, he gasped heavily and said Jenny Green was so scared by me that her heart condition flared up, demanding I rush over immediately and apologize to her. I struggled to hold on to the flimsy umbrella, and spoke calmly, "I'm still at the venue." As my words hung in the air, a lightning bolt split the dark sky, followed by a deafening thunderclap. David Miller's voice was tense, "It's pouring outside. They didn't bring you back? Tch. Nil." He stopped mid-sentence as Jenny Green suddenly started crying. "Is Sarah angry? It's all my fault. Maybe I should have just died overseas." David Miller immediately began to soothe her gently. Then, his voice filled with anger, he snapped at me, "This is your own doing. What are you complaining about? It was only 5 minutes. If you had just been more understanding, I wouldn't have left you." The last thread of patience snapped inside me. I curled my lips and cut him off. "Let's get a divorce. I won't apologize to Jenny Green. The ones who are wrong are you, not me." Since they couldn't let each other go, why did David Miller have to mess with me? He was the one who confessed to me first, the one who said he wanted to be with me forever. That's why I chose him so resolutely. 10 years. Were their feelings and youth precious, while mine were worthless? After hanging up, I quickly hailed a taxi/rideshare. Sitting in the car, another text message from David Miller arrived. "Sarah Clark, you need to own up to your mistakes. After 10 years, you're already used up by me. Who do you think would want you besides me? Especially since you schemingly got pregnant with my child." I stared at the text message, numb. I thought nothing else today could make me feel worse, but apparently, I was wrong. I rolled down the window, letting the cold wind hit my face. My heart, which had been a chaotic mess of pain, gradually cleared. I told the driver to turn around and head straight for the hospital. I was still wearing my mud-stained wedding dress. As soon as I walked into the hospital lobby, a nurse asked if I needed help. I calmly told her I was there for an abortion. After a moment of stunned silence, her eyes filled with sympathy, and she led me to the 3rd floor. Lying on the operating table, listening to the baby's strong heartbeat on the ultrasound, I still called David Miller. As soon as he picked up, I heard Jenny Green's voice. She was tearfully apology. Zing to me. David Miller quickly snatched the phone. He scoffed, "Sarah Clark, it's too late to realize your mistake now. You've caused Jenny so much suffering. Unless you come over immediately and kneel and apologize to Jenny, I will never forgive you." The words I was about to say died in my throat. I looked at the doctor. "Please proceed. The baby is healthy. Do you want to discuss this with the father again?" "No need." After returning home, the apartment was unchanged. It seemed David Miller had been with Jenny Green all these days. I opened Jenny Green's social media feed. She had posted several new updates. The aloof young Master Miller cooking for love, drawing envy from many. I saved all of them, then turned off my phone screen. After packing a few things, I checked directly into a hotel. I took a hot bath, and my icy body gradually warmed up. I took a few days off from the company. Once my body had recovered somewhat, I returned to work. During that time, Mom kept calling, asking if I had managed to appease David Miller. I told her I wouldn't be with David Miller anymore. She wailed and cried, irritating me so much that I simply stopped answering her calls. As soon as I entered the company, everyone looked at me with unnatural expressions. My colleague Lisa pulled me to my desk. That's when I noticed the headlines had exploded across all websites. She squeezed my hand, surprised and envious. "I can't believe I had a rich boss next to me all this time. I always thought Jenny Green was the Miller Corp's young madam, but it turns out it was you, Sarah." I gave an awkward smile and quickly scanned the post's content. Scenes from the wedding that day had been filmed and posted online by someone with an agenda. Someone had written an extremely melodramatic wealthy family scandal of favoring the mistress over the wife case. Because of David Miller's bizarre actions at the wedding, even Miller Corporation was affected. If this had been before, I would have been desperate to help David Miller resolve the scandal. But now that I had decided to divorce, I couldn't be bothered. When it was time to leave work, David Miller, for the first time ever, was waiting at the company entrance. I turned to try and avoid him, but he caught up in a few strides and forcibly pushed me into his car. "Still angry? Can't you tell which is more important, a wedding or a person's life? You're not a kid anymore, throwing tantrums like getting a divorce and running away from home. How childish can you be? Alright, didn't you always want to go to the starry ceiling restaurant uptown? I'll take you there now." David Miller finished speaking, pulled a gift box from the glove compartment, and threw it at me. Something rolled out of it, a diamond ring. It looked considerably more expensive than the one from the wedding day. David Miller looked at me with a "you should be satisfied now" expression. Jenny's heart isn't good. Since that ring is already on her finger, just let her keep it. This one is much more expensive than that one, so stop making a fuss. I toyed with the diamond ring in my hand. The price tag, $999,999, hadn't even been removed. He probably bought it from a jewelry store at the last minute. Before, when I was upset, he would cook for me himself, patiently watch movies with me to comfort and advise me, and even spend an entire day shopping with me to pick out the gift I liked most. Now, he had become just like his family, putting a price tag on my genuine feelings and expecting me to accept it with gratitude. I put the ring back in the glove compartment and shook my head. This is too expensive. You should keep it for Jenny Green. And I'm not making a scene. Since you and Jenny Green can't let each other go, why don't I just give her the position of Mrs. Miller? We can find some time to get divorced. David Miller and I had already gotten our marriage certificate before the wedding. Now, to separate, we needed to go through divorce procedures. Before, I had overheard him, Jenny Green, and a group of friends having dinner. Someone asked the esteemed young Master Miller why he would like an ordinary woman like me. He popped a peeled grape into Jenny Green's mouth and chuckled dismissively. It's not really about liking her. But Sarah Clark has been with me for 10 years, and now she's carrying my child. It would be pathetic not to marry her. It's just a title, Mrs. Miller, I might as well give it to her. Our marriage, to him, was an act of charity and pity towards me. But to me, it was filled with deep love and sincerity. Now I didn't love him anymore, and I didn't care for the title of Mrs. Miller either. I thought he would be happy if I took the initiative to let him and Jenny Green be together. To my surprise, his eyes suddenly turned red with anger, and he slammed his right hand on the steering wheel. Sarah Clark, what's the point of saying all this? For years you've been sucking up to my parents like a dog, and you went to such lengths to get pregnant with my child. Wasn't it all just to become Mrs. Miller? And now you're talking about letting us be together? How ridiculous can you be? So what if the wedding didn't happen? We can just hold another one next time. And who's to blame for this anyway? I agreed to marry you. All I did was propose to Jenny, and you had to act like a shrew and wouldn't let it go. He always said the child was conceived because I had schemingly got pregnant. But he was the one who said he wanted his parents to accept me, that he wanted us to have a child together. It was only after Jenny Green came back that he regretted it and blamed everything on me. He pressed the horn repeatedly, creating a jarring blast. If he had been this angry before, I would have already been crying and apologizing to him, trying to explain. But now, I didn't want to argue a single word. I turned my head and looked at the scenery outside the car. After a long time, perhaps not adding the humble plea for reconciliation he expected, he turned to look at me and called out, "Sarah." I closed my eyes and didn't respond. The GPS occasionally announced the route. When we were 0.2 kilometers away from the destination, his phone suddenly rang. On the phone, Jenny Green was crying, saying her heart was bothering her again, asking if she was going to die. Honestly, I was tired of hearing her say that, even if she wasn't. Ever since she returned from overseas, her heart would act up on every significant holiday. Anyone who wasn't blind could see she was faking it, but unfortunately, David Miller couldn't. I spoke first. "You can drop me off at the next intersection." David Miller looked at me in astonishment. "You're not angry? You're not insisting on coming with me?" I shook my head. Before, I didn't like him being alone with Jenny Green, so I suggested I could go with him to take care of her. Back then, he would fly into a rage and curse me for having a dirty mind and being petty, telling me to learn to be pure and kind like Jenny Green. He pressed his lips together. His phone was still vibrating nonstop. The car quickly reached the intersection. I grabbed my bag and was about to get out when he grabbed my wrist, looking at me with a complex expression. "I'll go check on her and come back later to take you out to eat. Don't worry, the position of Mrs. Miller is definitely yours. Don't be angry." "Okay, I'm not angry," I said dismissively, trying to push him away. But he squeezed tighter. "Sarah, you're not like you used to be. Why aren't you? Jealous? Is that it? What's there to be jealous about? It's normal for a young woman to see you as a brother and come to you first when something happens, isn't it? Go on." I smiled, pried his hand off, and got out of the car. Then I took a taxi/rideshare back to the hotel, ate the buffet there, and fell into bed and slept. Half asleep, I got a call from David Miller. He explained that Jenny Green couldn't be left alone right now, said he couldn't take me out to eat, and told me not to wait for him. I just replied, I already ate. He immediately fell silent, then asked through gritted teeth, do you have to be this way? I hummed an affirmation, hung up, and went back to sleep soundly. It wasn't until the next day that I saw the text message he sent, warning me not to play with fire. When I returned to the company for work again, I finally understood what he meant. Several projects I was handling had all been transferred to Jenny Green's name. She became our new team leader, always smiling as she made me do various menial tasks. David Miller would come every day at noon to take her out for lunch. His gaze towards me was utterly cold when he saw me. The scandal surrounding Miller Corporation online was escalating. He wanted me to go with him to the press conference the Miller family was holding on Monday, to help explain that Jenny Green was not a mistress at all, that I had intervened in her and David Miller's relationship while she was overseas and forced David Miller to marry me using the pregnancy. He made it sound very appealing, saying I would still be the enviable Mrs. Miller, just needing to take on a little bit of blame. That way, the turmoil for Miller Corporation would calm down, and Jenny Green wouldn't be affected. He also said that this was all caused by my willfulness at the wedding and that I should rightfully bear the consequences. Of course, I refused. I immediately blocked him. David Miller's parents came to find me again, warning me to follow their arrangements and not think I could do whatever I wanted just because I was carrying a Miller heir. I gave them the same treatment as David Miller. And I resigned from the company immediately. My abilities weren't bad, many companies had tried to recruit me before. But now, as I contacted them one by one, everyone was evasive. I understood this was the Miller family's doing. They were forcing me to agree to the press conference. But this time I didn't want to compromise. After another failed job application, a former client contacted me. They said their newly developed overseas supply chain needed staff, and the salary wouldn't be worse than Miller Corp's. The only thing was the work location was overseas, and they asked if I was interested. After all, I was an only child. Thinking of mom and dad, I only agreed to consider it for now. Returning to the hotel, Dad called and said mom's headache flared up again. I immediately took a taxi/rideshare home. As soon as I pushed the door open, David Miller was there too. Mom took the bag from my hand, looking perfectly fine. I looked at her grimly. I knew I had been sold out by my own parents again. At the dinner table, David Miller sat beside me, kept putting food on my plate. The three of them acted as if they were a truly happy family. Mom kept praising him, David is a truly rare good son-in-law. Not only does he come from a good family, but he's also very considerate of Sarah. Dad, who was supposed to be the elder, had a fawning smile and kept pouring David Miller wine. He chatted, saying I was too willful at the wedding and thanking David Miller for his tolerance towards me. Their servile attitude made my resolve of the past few days crumble instantly. My eyes were red. I clumsily clutched the glass of milk Mom handed me. Unable to bear it anymore, I looked at Mom and Dad. Am I even your real daughter? Why, from childhood until now, have you never stood firmly by my side whenever there was a problem? I've already told you, I won't be with David Miller anymore. David Miller's brows furrowed tightly. He probably couldn't understand why I was so stubborn this time, after compromising so many times before. Mom's hand, which was wiping the table, stopped. She threw the rag soaked with milk at my head. Sticky milk mixed with grayish-brown grime dripped down my face. She forced an apologetic smile at David Miller. Oh, Vid. It's all my fault for not raising Sarah properly. She's actually trying to get a divorce over such a small matter. Then, without hesitation, she slapped me, angrily shouting, Sarah Clark, do you think you're still some innocent young woman in her 20s? You're 30. A woman at 30 is past her prime. David doesn't mind that you're old and faded, that you're willful. You should be grateful. And you still want a divorce. Do you have any manners? It was just a small issue at the wedding. How long are you going to keep causing a scene? If you don't think about yourself, you should at least think about the child in your belly and your parents. My face was turned to the side, stinging terribly. David Miller seemed not to have expected Mom to hit me. He quickly stood up and reached out to steady me. Mom's next slap landed on his shoulder. He said tenderly, are you okay? I'll take you to the hospital. Then he turned back to Mom, Aunt Clark, she is my woman, and she is carrying a Miller family child. If there is a next time, even if you are her mother, I won't go easy on you. Mom froze. I scoffed, my eyes filled with disgust. David Miller, who are you trying to pretend to be a good guy now? Isn't this exactly what you wanted to see? My gaze made him uneasy. He, who was always aloof, actually looked lost and helpless. Sarah, you. Heh, so you really want me to take the blame as the mistress for Jenny Green, huh? Fine. I'll go to the press conference. Don't regret it. With that, I slammed the front door shut. My steps quickened. I flagged down a taxi/rideshare and left. In the rearview mirror, I saw David Miller standing by the neighborhood/apartment building entrance for a long time. He kept calling me, but I didn't answer a single one. So he sent me text messages, saying the press conference was a matter of urgency. He knew I was wronged, and he would compensate me after it was over. See? He knew I was wronged. It was just that when it came to J.E.N.N.Y. Green, I was the one who had to be sacrificed. I immediately blocked him. After returning to the hotel, I lay on the bed, covering my eyes with my arm. Mom and Dad's calls kept coming relentlessly. Mom asked if I was trying to make her die of anger. She said her headache flared up again, and if I didn't coax David Miller properly, she'd just let herself die from the pain. Then came a long lecture, saying how much they'd done raising me, and yet I was so unfilial. My mind flashed back to the change in Mom and Dad's attitude after they learned about David Miller's family background. I could never understand why children are born to love their parents, yet some parents can't love their children. I always believed that parents inherently love their children unconditionally, that they loved me. But only now did I see clearly that in this world, there really are parents who don't love their children. They raised me, but they never gave me the selfless love and care that parents should. So from now on, I only need to fulfill my financial support obligations, and then I can live freely, see the world. I replied to her, your body is your own. If you really want to die from the pain, I won't stop you. Then I stopped replying to Mom's messages. I called the client and told them I was willing to work overseas. The press conference was held on Wednesday. It was also the day of Miller Corp's new product launch. Businessmen prioritize profit. Even at a time like this, they didn't forget to maximize the benefits from the media buzz. I appeared at the venue entrance wearing a black trench coat. The media journalists invited by Miller Corporation swarmed around. David Miller and Jenny Green were standing not far away. Seeing me struggle to move through the crowd, David Miller immediately came forward, pulling me into his arms protectively. I tried to push him away, but he held me tighter. There are so many people. Be careful not to jostle the baby. The camera flashes were blind. So I stopped struggling. The journalists inside the venue were clearly more disciplined. Jenny Green gave me a triumphant smile. I curled my lips indifferently. I hoped she'd still be smiling later. Ms. Clark, isn't it true that as soon as Ms. Green went overseas, you couldn't wait to drug Mr. Miller and sleep with him, doing such a despicable thing? What were you thinking at the time? We heard the child in your belly is actually a test tube baby conceived using Mr. Miller's sperm that you stole. Where did you learn such a trick? Two of the journalists stood up first, their words sharp. David Miller's face beside me grew colder and colder. He snapped, who told you to ask these questions? I glanced at him, thinking 4 words, putting on a show. As a CEO/head of the group, he couldn't possibly not have foreseen what I would face by coming to this press conference, right? I ignored his expression of bewilderment and regret. Turning to the 2 journalists, I said, since you are Jenny Green's friends, I completely understand the quality you are displaying. Guilt flashed in their eyes. They mumbled, don't make baseless accusations. But under my unwavering gaze, they bit their lips and said nothing more. After all, if someone really wanted to dig, their identities couldn't be hidden. Not to mention all the cameras set up here today. Seeing that David Miller remained by my side and wouldn't leave, Jenny Green swayed slightly. David Miller stood up anxiously, went to her side, and put his arm around her. Are you okay? Is your heart bothering you again? The moment he left, I was left alone on the stage. Sensing my gaze, he belatedly let go of Jenny Green, but she grabbed his arm. David, my chest feels so tight. David Miller looked conflicted, but ultimately chose to stay by her side. I calmly withdrew my gaze. The remaining questions were still unpleasant, with terms like mistress, interfering, gold digger, and sleeping your way up still coming thick and fast. When most people had asked their questions, I stood up, raised the microphone, smiled, opened my shoulder bag, and with a sweep of my hand, scattered hundreds of photos towards the crowd. I said, word by word, as for who the mistress really is, I believe you can all judge for yourselves. A few photos landed near Jenny Green. With just one look, her fragile, innocent facade instantly shattered. The photos showed Jenny Green in bars overseas with various men. All that talk about studying overseas, about a long-distance relationship, it was all fake. The reason she went overseas back then was to elope with her first love. She craved excitement and disliked arranged marriages, so she abandoned David Miller. Later, after being betrayed and deceived, she regretted it and came back for David Miller, completely destroying my life. Why should she get away with that? And David Miller knew all of this. Even these photos were found on David Miller's computer. But he didn't care, because in his heart, Jenny Green was above everything else. He could even cover up all the truth for her and pull me out to take the blame. Sarah, you. The guests pointing and whispering turned towards them. Just like on the wedding day. Jenny Green trembled all over, cowering in David Miller's arms. David Miller stared at me in disbelief. I then enlarged a chat screenshot onto the big screen behind me. It was a message Jenny Green had privately sent me the day before the wedding. She asked me to guess whether David Miller would choose her or me the next day. At that time, I hadn't understood what she meant. Not until David Miller left me without hesitation. Scrolling down, there were photos I had saved of them alone together, which she posted on her social media feed every time David Miller met with her. From various angles, utterly intimate. I walked over again and threw a heart examination report onto Jenny Green's face. Even your heart condition is fake. Jenny Green, you're quite an actress. Tears immediately streamed down her face. She shook her head, her lips trembling. Sarah, I don't know what you're talking about. I know you don't like me, but how could you forge these things to frame me? Such a drama queen. I couldn't be bothered to waste words. I just tossed out, whether it's true or false, someone will naturally dig into it. After all, the journalists from these major platforms present weren't to be underestimated. Her body went limp, and she swayed towards David Miller. Surprisingly, David Miller didn't catch her this time. Instead, he rushed to my side. Cheating, protecting his mistress, twisting the truth. His reputation was utterly ruined this time. The new product launch was also a complete failure. Miller Corporation was bound to suffer a significant blow. I thought he was coming to settle the score with me. To my surprise, he was clutching two photos tightly in his hand. One photo showed him wrapped in a towel, holding Jenny Green in his arms. Another photo's background was a private room, showing him and Jenny Green kissing with their eyes closed. His thin lips trembled as he grabbed my arm. Sarah, how do you have these photos? It's not what it looks like. I laughed mockingly and pushed his hand away. Then what is it like? Did someone force your head down to make you kiss her? I had always thought he could also see Jenny Green's social media posts. Now it seemed he had no idea. No wonder he had been so self-righteous when he told me it was just a small issue at the wedding. The scene was chaotic. I nodded, satisfied, then looked at David Miller and gave him a cruel smile, deliberately raising my voice to draw everyone's attention back to me. As for me, I changed the image on the big screen from the chat records to the abortion diagnosis report. I have already terminated the pregnancy. From today onwards, Mr. Miller and I will no longer be married. David Miller froze, staring blankly at the abortion diagnosis rep. Word on the big screen, unable to react in time. The journalists present were all holding some of the photos I had thrown down earlier. Now, they were continuously taking photos of the abortion diagnosis report on the screen. The focus of the journalists' interviews instantly shifted to David Miller and Jenny Green. Meanwhile, I pushed through the crowd and made a graceful exit. As I was about to walk out the door, I could still hear Jenny Green's helpless crying. David Miller was surrounded by the crowd and couldn't break free to come after me. He roared with heartbreaking pain, shouting my name, asking why I aborted the baby, why I was doing this to him. Just as I had gotten a taxi/rideshare and was ready to leave, David Miller's parents also arrived. They angrily demanded to know what I had done. I smiled brightly, just a little something from me. The press conference caused a huge sensation. Mom and Dad kept calling, asking if I had gone mad for daring to abort the baby. They also wanted me to cooperate with Miller Corp's emergency PR. I treated it like they were talking nonsense. I finally understood. For so many years, because I was an only child, I had given up too many opportunities just to stay by their side. I always believed that parents inherently love their children unconditionally, that they loved me. But only now did I see clearly that in this world, there really are parents who don't love their children. They raised me, but they never gave me the selfless love and care that parents should. So from now on, I only need to fulfill my financial support obligations, and then I can live freely, see the world. I replied to her, your body is your own. If you really want to die from the pain, I won't stop you. Then I stopped replying to Mom's messages. I called the client and told them I was willing to work overseas. The date for going overseas was set for 2 weeks later. I enrolled myself in an English-speaking class. I thought that under these circumstances, David Miller wouldn't have time to bother me anymore. But only a week later, as I was leaving my class, I saw David Miller waiting at the entrance. He looked quite a bit thinner. Around his neck was the coffee-colored scarf I had knitted for him myself on his birthday last year. In previous years, I would save up half a year's salary to buy him watches and belts. But later I realized that gifts I considered very expensive were the cheapest things in his closet. So last year, I saved up 3 months' salary and spent nearly 3 months learning how to knit a scarf. I thought this way he might feel my sincerity more. But when I gave it to him, he still just glanced at it indifferently and put it in the furthest corner of his closet. I wanted him to try it on, but he just frowned at my hands, which were practically pincushions, and said, "So important to you? Don't tell me you knitted it yourself? Sarah Clark, you wouldn't do something that boring, would you?" I instantly pulled my hands into my sleeves and looked down, saying, "Of course not." Seeing me staring at the scarf, he deliberately pulled it up, revealing the white crane embroidery with his name on it. "Sarah, does it look good? I thought you threw it away long ago." I replied indifferently and turned to walk towards the hotel where I was currently staying. He followed me into the narrow hotel, hesitating to speak. "You just had an abortion, how can you stay here? If you don't have money, I can." I cut him off. "Have you forgotten? I aborted your child, ruined Miller Corp's new product launch, ruined you, and ruined Jenny Green. Sarah, I've thought it through. It was my oversight before. This isn't your fault. As long as you come back with me and apologize to my parents, I promise, my wife will only be you. We can have more children." He almost made me laugh out of anger. I had even aborted the baby, how could he still think I wanted to be his wife? "I think you're missing the point. The issue now is, I don't want you anymore. And there's no way I'm going back with you to apologize." He gritted his teeth, his eyes red, and tried to come over and hug me, but my cold gaze stopped him. "Sarah, you never used to say such hurtful things to me. You must be angry with me, right? I can explain." As he spoke, he pulled out a stack of photos from his chest pocket, a full dozen. I ignored him and calmly put the kettle on to boil water, then started taking off my makeup. He followed behind me. "This photo of us kissing, Jenny lost a dare. There were too many people there at the time, I couldn't just stand by and let someone else take advantage of her. This photo, it was raining too hard that day and my clothes got soaked. When we were at the hotel, there was sudden thunder, and she got scared and threw herself into my arms. That's why we were hugging. And this one." He kept talking until the water in the kettle had gone from boiling hot to cold. He still had more than half the stack left in his hand. As he spoke, his voice grew lower and lower, his throat becoming hoarse. I looked up at him. "Do you want to keep going?" He clenched the photos tightly, closing his eyes in pain. "Actually, the arranged marriage between our two families was something I broke off. Because I had fallen for you, I rejected her when she confessed her feelings. Because of that, she left the country in anger and went through all of that. Sarah, we owed her something from before. But I promise, from now on, I won't let you suffer even the slightest bit of injustice. You understand, right?" His words actually surprised me. The first time I saw David Miller was during a cultural performance in college. Sarah's parents believed in raising children frugally. That's why they cut off my allowance as soon as I started college. Even back then, no matter how hard I worked part-time, I often couldn't afford enough food, let alone a performance outfit that cost $300. And just when I was at my wit's end, he handed a performance outfit to me, saying I shouldn't affect the whole class just because of myself. It was from that moment on that I started noticing him. But Jenny Green was always by his side, so I chose to silently hide my feelings. I never expected that he had also fallen for me at that time. A different feeling instantly surged in my heart. It felt utterly disgusting. I curled my lips and looked at him. "Do you think I'd be touched after hearing all that?" "Unfortunately, I just feel sickened. This was all your own choice. You could have compensated her in any way, but you specifically chose to trample all over me. And we have nothing to do with each other anymore. I won't forgive you." I pulled out my divorce certificate/divorce papers from my bag. He stared, his eyes wide with disbelief. On the third day after the press conference, David Miller's parents came to see me. They cursed me as a ruthless and malicious woman. Then they used their influence to put an end to my marriage with him. He probably realized this as well. He slumped against the doorframe, defeated. "So, you're not coming back, are you?" "That's right. The day I left, I didn't tell anyone. But just as I was about to board, I saw Jenny Green rushing towards me. She was yelling bitch. In her hand was a gleaming knife. She was screaming that I had stolen David Miller from her. She also yelled that even though she had already broken up David Miller and me, why did he still not accept her? I couldn't dodge in time. In the nick of time, I was pulled into a familiar embrace. The knife plunged into David Miller's abdomen. Blood instantly soaked his white shirt. Jenny Green was restrained by airport security. Someone in the crowd called the police. As I watched him fall before me, only calmness remained in my heart. The boarding announcement sounded. I held my boarding pass in my hand, but my other wrist was seized. His face pale, he pleaded, "Sarah, I truly know IW. as wrong. Please, stay?" He pulled too hard, aggravating the wound, and the blood flowed faster. Although I had no feelings left for him, I didn't want to be responsible for his death because of this. So I took off the coffee-colored scarf I had knitted myself, which was around his neck, pressed it against his wound, and calmly dialed 911. Then, I pried his fingers away one by one. "David Miller, you're really annoying me like this." After saying that, I handed him over to the airport staff to take care of and walked away without looking back. 11. In my second year working overseas, I still sent money to mom and dad every month. They no longer cursed me as heartless like before for abandoning my elderly parents to go overseas alone. Instead, they often asked with hopeful pleading if I would come home for the holidays that year. Miller Corporation went bankrupt. They say it was because Jenny Green got pregnant, and David Miller kicked her, causing a miscarriage, and she could never become a mother again. She not only extensively publicized Miller Corp's scandal online but also sold Miller Corp's core secrets to their rival company. Finally, a crazed David Miller dragged her and jumped from the Miller Corporation building. Both died. As I admired the magnificent Iguazu Falls with my colleagues, I listened to my current boss ramble on about these old matters and people. My heart felt no ripples. As the holidays back home approached, I replied to mom and dad with one sentence: "No." Then a colleague beside me pulled me to take photos. Facing the camera, I flashed a bright smile that I hadn't shown in a long time. I knew that my new life had just begun.